Carter, it's like 4 in the morning, dude. What do you want?
Ransom, did you know I've never played the Metal Gear Solid games?
Carter, I don't Really? None of them?
Yeah, it's strange, right? I'm the big story guy, yet I've never gotten through one of the most important narratives in gaming. But guess what? I'm doing it now.
Okay, hold on. Can we at least, milk this for content or something? I mean, at least a podcast?
Sounds like a great idea. Come with us throughout the Metal Gear Solid series where we'll tackle the most important questions.
Can love bloom on the battlefield?
Are we here just to suffer?
Should all otakus be barred from employment?
Find out with us on A Podcast to Surpass Metal Gear. Hello everyone, and welcome to A Podcast to Surpass Metal Gear. I'm Carter, and I'm joined here with Ransom, and we are going to talk through, hopefully, the entire Metal Gear Solid series. But today, we're just going to focus on Metal Gear Solid 1, or, well, I should say, I'm going to focus on Metal Gear Solid 1.
That's right, Carter, because in order to recap myself, as I've only played that game once, I decided, you know what? I'm going to play through Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes for the first time, so that way I can recap myself on the plot and finer details of that game, but also experience that remake for the first time. And Carter, I have thoughts.
I can't wait to hear it.
We're also joined by Ricky Hira Miller and damn it, no, Casey Hira Miller. Okay, we're also joined by Casey Hira Miller.
You're floundering. You're floundering.
These are weird names.
Redo it.
Yeah, redo the whole thing. Okay. Yeah, those two are here. Ricky watched me play Twin Snakes the entire time, so he can add a lot. He will share his thoughts. Casey, he's just here because he doesn't want to be left out.
Actually, I'm here for a reason.
Oh, yeah?
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Casey.
So,
That's a pretty good reason, yeah.
Now, Ransom, I think you missed out on a really good Metal Gear themed nickname for Ricky. You should have called him Liquid Ricky, or Licky for short.
we're not doing that.
Call me Licky from now on, please.
Yeah.
I hate that. So
Imagine me as Lickitung. Okay, I'm done with it now.
I hope you cut that out, by the way, and just Casey, play some copyrighted music.
Okay, Carter, this was your very first time playing any Metal Gear game aside from Rising, correct?
Yeah, it's funny. Those who watched the tier list video will also remember. It's not just Rising, it is specifically Rising and Ground Zeroes.
Wow.
So that is all the experience I'd had with Metal Gear up to this point. Except for a very brief previous interaction that I will mention probably in the Metal Gear Solid 2 episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time, and as we kind of go over the game, I have a no commentary playthrough running in the other monitor of mine, just so I can kind of, look through and kind of refresh my memory a little bit if there's any specific details, because there's a lot of details to this game.
There are. Many details, many small nuances that really made me glad that I replayed the game. And a lot of things I surprisingly take issue with. For context, I replayed the series in a weird order, and it just so happened that Carter brought this up, that he wants to do this, perfectly in time for me to cap it all off with Twin Snakes. I essentially played them in the order of...
Miss you.
I'll be forever in our hearts.
Why is my Wi-Fi so bad lately? Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah, you should probably check for any enemy jammers, Ransom. I think that's what's going on.
Well, I think I got spotted by something out the window, and as we all know, the codec can't operate with any radio interference.
Yeah,
So
that is.
anyway,
I hope they fix that in, I don't know, 20 years or so, in time for like the next adventure.
yeah. But yes, my replay of the series started with my very first time playing The Phantom Pain. And that kickstarted me into going, well, I'm in a Metal Gear mood now. So I then went and played 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, and now 1.
So you're kind of fresh off the entire series now.
That's right. And I am here to say, MGS1 has a shit ton of backtracking. Oh my god.
Okay. That we will definitely get to that. I would actually like to say, I'd like to kind of start back at the beginning, because I kind of tried to come into this game from the perspective of, like, someone from, like, a kid in the 90s, late 90s, who probably, if he had any console before PS1, probably would have been a Super Nintendo, you know? Probably didn't own, like, a super, super good PC, and thinking about, like, okay, this kid was probably super used to, like, pixel art games. He may have liked the older Final Fantasies and stuff. And he gets a PS1, and Final Fantasy VII comes out, and his mind is just blown apart. Like, there are other games at the time, particularly, like, PC games, of, like, I guess your, like, Half-Lifes and stuff, that were doing much more visually, but Seven was, a landmark for kind of how stuff was presented on consoles. But the big thing is that it cheated a lot with the use of the pre-rendered backgrounds. And so, putting myself in that mindset, when you, like, go through that very opening section of the game and you come up out of the elevator and you're looking at the Shadow Moses facility head on, and you press, like, the triangle button for the first time, and you zoom in, and you're just like, oh, this is like actually doing what FF7 wanted to do with, like, Shinra and Nibelheim, but actually modeled out in the game.
It's a real environment that you can observe it from every angle.
Yeah. And it's just, didn't this game come out, like, a year after FF7 or something?
Research time. You keep talking, I will give you an answer in just a moment.
Yeah, it's just, like, I think that just the jump from 7 to this is genuinely insane, genuinely crazy. Not to mention...
Yes, 98.
Yeah, having, like, the full voice acting. I don't think there's any exchanges in this game that are just text. It's all voice acting, which is really, really neat for how it, for just, like, the time this game existed. And I think, like, even games, like, late in the PS2 sometimes didn't have full voice acting. I mean, we're Let's Playing Kingdom Hearts 2 right now. That game doesn't have full voice acting.
You're very correct.
And so
go ahead.
It does just feel really ahead of its time for a PS1 game.
It's probably one of the most ahead of its time games you could find ever. And that's going to generally stay true for most of the series, because you play 2 or 3 and you're like, wow, PS3 games weren't doing this. You play 4 and wow, PS4 games weren't doing it. You know, it's the trend. But I will agree, like, MGS1 as a landmark title, as a game that came out in 1998, seems like an unbelievable fact. Like, you look at the models and just the general graphics, and you're like, yeah, that's a PS1 game, but then you go in first-person mode. Then all of that stuff is real-time gameplay, and the entire thing is voice-acted. And it's good voice acting, which... Let's not discount that. That's a very real element that added a lot to it.
Well, I will say, mostly good voice acting.
I can't wait to hear what you're talking about.
It'll come up in, like, just a minute or so.
Okay. Not only that, but these are all... it's a combination of a plot that has a lot of deep themes. Not the deepest themes the series will have. I'll have further thoughts on that, but characters that are really likable and have a lot of personality. With just twists and turns, and it really is an action set-piece movie, spy thriller, translated into a video game about as well as you could do. It was something that people didn't think was possible in that day. And even now,
Yeah.
a lot of elements of it are still really impressive. I still think the pacing and the set pieces, mostly the pacing, and the set pieces are 100% up to snuff, only being beaten out in its own series by, I think, probably 3. But yeah, speaking of characters, I actually have a lot of thoughts on Solid Snake in this game. Are you okay with moving on to that?
Yeah, I suppose so. I was, the only other thing I was really gonna say about the intro was, like, I think it really shows a lot of confidence that they start off with this, like, actual kind of movie sequence in the game with the submarine and showing the interior and, like, the super detailed, like, monitors and consoles in it. Like, this game has, like, genuinely incredible environmental design. Like, you could tell me that someone developed this today as, like, a really high quality PS1 throwback, and I would, like, totally believe you. I guess this is just where Kojima kind of started getting his reputation for just, like, incredibly, like, dense, like, environments with, like, tons of, like, observable details and secrets. And also in the original, I mean, also in those first 2 rooms, below the elevator and then right outside Shadow Moses, there's, like, a surprising amount of details in there. I think, like, there's the puddle that makes noise when you step on it in that first room. Like, it kind of... The stealth in this game is affected by a lot more than I would expect the stealth in a PS1 game to be affected by. The first time I ever got noticed was literally I took the snow path on the right up to Shadow Moses, and as I was sneaking around, the guard noticed my footprints in the snow, which I did not expect that. Like, that's something even a lot of stealth games today don't even really bother with. Like, that's... I don't know, I thought it was a really cool detail, and it was really fun that the game was kind of allowing these very dynamic moments even early on.
And hilariously, that's the only time that interaction can happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I like, it never happened again for me.
People love to say the most complex room in the game is the second room. Don't know about that per se, but it is funny that there's a lot of there's a reason people really enjoy VR missions, and it's because there's so many mechanics in MGS1 that you don't really get to mess with beyond surface level when they do have a lot of depth, you know, when you can pull a lot out of them. Still, though, I'm an appreciator of, check out this asset, now it's gone, because we got money to spend, you know?
Yeah, that's definitely a fun way to think about it. And so yeah, you go up the elevator, and you have your kind of first codec call with Snake. And so I guess you can start talking about Snake if you want, because I know that he wasn't really what I was expecting.
He wasn't what I was expecting either. Which may sound strange, but I kind of forgot a lot of the first game. And I'm really... MGS2 is the nostalgia game for me. It's 3 for Ricky, but 2 is the nostalgia game for me. And this isn't really huge spoilers, Carter, but Solid Snake in that game and 4 is a pretty different person. Same character without a doubt, it's believable, but he grew. So, his depiction in 1 being this really tired and... What's the word I'm looking for? Just...
Damp.
No, not damp.
Well,
cynical guy who says, like, edgy shit like, I don't make connections with people and stuff. It's
very
like
Hollywood.
Very Hollywood. And it's like, that's not the Snake I know, to be honest.
Well,
So,
it's also like it's like you get up the elevator and the first thing that happens is he starts trying to flirt with like a new female member of his team just immediately.
Yep, he's a dog. All of that flirting just to end up marrying Otacon. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is nice for the bisexual representation, I guess. I will say, like, I think Snake has much more chemistry with Otacon, even in MGS1.
Even in this game.
Yeah.
To skip to the end here, there's the scene where he's holding Meryl in his arms, and then he gets a call from Otacon, and the two different conversations going on there. It's like, why do I feel more emotion from the Otacon one? That's crazy. But I love it.
I think part of it might be is like, you know, this game obviously has a big Hollywood spy movie influence, and it does kind of, the relationship between Snake and Meryl does feel a little more like, I guess, by the books, like what you would expect from this kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Otacon is more of like, Otacon feels much more like a chemistry that is like discovered by the story as it's written. Like, you know, they actually started writing the characters like, actually these two do have a lot of fun interactions together. And, you know, obviously with only this one entry in the series, like, I have no idea how they like whether they intended for Snake to have like any kind of chemistry with Otacon, or if it was just kind of something the fans ended up pointing out as time went on. But yeah, Snake is still a really, really interesting character, and he did surprise me. Would you like to repeat like the first thing I said to you about Snake once I finished?
Oh, fuck. What was it? You say it. I don't fucking remember.
I think you asked me, hey man, what did you think about Solid Snake? And I was like, he's not gay enough. He's not autistic enough.
He's not. So the autism's gonna come from Big Boss. Gonna tell you that now. The gay, it'll come.
Okay.
Regardless, the gay will also come from Big Boss.
The gay will just start coming in general.
It just the series gets gayer as it goes. It's a pretty linear line.
Yeah, from what I understand, Otacon's gonna spend the rest of the series with Liquid Snake inside of him. So
you mean Revolver Ocelot?
Revolver Ocelot's going to spend like the rest of the series with Liquid Snake, and by extension, Big Boss inside of him. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Regardless, even in the straightest game there is in the series, Solid Snake still sees a twink. Well, he says, "This nerdy twink just pissed himself and said anime. I need to fuck him." Twin Snakes didn't deliver on that super well, by the way. Snake is...
Oh, really?
Pretty much abusive towards Otacon multiple times. I don't know what
yeah, that's very true.
I don't know what they were doing with that. I don't know if you've seen the scene, Carter, but you know when you're trapped in the prison cell and Otacon comes to help you.
Yeah.
Snake reaches his arms through the bars, grabs Otacon, and it lifts him up and is slamming him against the door, saying, "You gotta help me, please."
Oh my god.
And it's like, this is
No, he's not like you got to help me, please. Isn't he like, get me out of here now?
Yeah, no, he's more demanding than that. He's. You're right, Ricky.
It's bizarre. It's really strange.
What makes the scene even more bizarre is what's Otacon's voice actor name? It's I'll remember it later, I'm sure. But he's not doing good line delivery there because they probably didn't tell him what's happening in the scene, because he's just like, "Stop, Snake! You're doing too much." And it's just like, Otacon, you should be screaming and like desperate. It's a very strange scene. And one of many strange scenes in Twin Snakes. I don't know what the fuck was going on in some of those.
Yeah, and so that's funny. And speaking about cutscenes, I know I've mentioned this to you, and I want to know if this happens in Twin Snakes as well. Something that I found very weird with the way cutscenes are delivered in this game, period, is that, like, a lot of the cutscenes just stop, go dead silent, and in like a black screen for like maybe half a second, and then just resume. And I had to go and look at like actual playthroughs of the game to make sure this wasn't like a problem with the emulator or something. But it's like, no, it's weird. It's like they have to cut up all of like the cutscenes in the game, because it's like the music will stop and then another track, or I think even sometimes the same track, will just start playing again. And did they do that at all in the Twin Snakes, where there's just that weird starting and stopping?
Yes, but it's very, very fast. And it's pretty much only when they cut to, like, real-life footage.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of times in MGS, it's just in between two lines when two characters are talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's very weird, and it would take me out of it a bit, but I can also get it, because it's like, okay, this is one of the first times you guys are ever doing something like this on, like, you know, a PS1, and these are, like, I'm assuming in-engine cutscenes, not pre-rendered, so maybe they have to let it, like, queue up the directions, or how, like, the cutscene is going to be directed. I do
believe that's what's happening.
Okay, like, you know, that makes sense. I just wanted to mention that because I had never heard anyone mention that before. I just thought it was a little interesting quirk of the game.
Yeah, you are right. I like it personally. I think it's kind of charming, but I wasn't missing it in Twin Snakes without a doubt, nor any of the rest of the series.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
How did you feel about your codec buddies?
I forgot just how many you get in the first game, because it's like 7 or something, right? It's a shit ton.
It's a lot. In several characters I did not ever know existed.
The standouts for me are Otacon, of course, who just always has something funny or insightful to say. Mei Ling, of course. I never get enough of her proverbs. Master Miller, who, you know. But,
okay. I will say, it may have been intentional, but Miller is the character I'm talking about when I say mostly good voice acting.
Really now? Whoa.
Miller just sounds so goofy to me. Like, he sounds like a parody character in the way he talks. He's, like... I don't know if they direct his voice in the same way in Twin Snakes, but in MGS1, he's just always like... So it's just like, Snake, you gotta look at this Arctic fox, man. Look over here. My voice is going up and down and up and down. Like, he has this weird, like, tone to his voice.
Snake, you need to follow the rats. The rats are your friends, Snake. Also, be sure to look at the in-game menu. Miller breaks the fourth wall the most, I think, in those codec.
But calls. Yeah, they do that in Twin Snakes.
They do.
Okay. I don't dislike it. It's just it makes me laugh every time.
So my thing is, I'm really used to hearing Robin Atkin Downs voice Miller, the real Miller. who voices travistouchdown in the No More Heroes series. So
Okay.
that kind of line delivery coming from someone I'm used to sounding like Travistouchdown doesn't really throw me off, you know? I mean, this is the guy who goes, "They played us like a damn fiddle!" You know, it's just in character at this point. This is just he's just like that. Love that. Can't wait to say more about Liquid later.
Yeah. I know I ended up really liking. I ended up liking Dr. Naomi a lot. Natasha was kind of interesting. I felt like she didn't get as much play as some of the others.
She's really kind of nothing, I think. You really...
I think she's actually, like, completely optional. I think you don't have to ever call her.
Neat that she's there. Go ahead, Ricky.
Isn't... let me look something up. Because
Okay.
just let me look something up.
You
can go ahead.
I'm gonna give me a moment to talk about Twin Snakes graphically real quick, because I think the game visually actually does a really good job. I don't think I have any problem with the visuals of that game, other than maybe just a few models looking kind of weird. Otacon especially is like... This is a very different direction to take him from MGS2. So, okay. Like, he looks really ugly and nerdy in Twin Snakes. Well, in 2, they kind of... He just looks like Otacon, in my mind, you know?
Let me take a look at his,
Yeah. So... What I think, and we can segue this into this plot point, in the original, whenever someone died of Fox Die, it was good, like, the scene was good, but they go really hard in Twin Snakes with the Fox Die, like, when the, DARPA chief dies, like, his eyes go bloodshot red, and like, the veins in his head and neck are going crazy and stuff. It looks good. It's intense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's just them trying to kind of put as much more detail in as they can, and trying to, I guess justify the use of the new hardware.
Sometimes they put too much.
Yeah. And so, I would like to talk about a little bit of the stealth kind of leading up to the DARPA chief, because this is something that I would like to kind of point out. I would not call this a stealth game.
No, it's really not.
I think this is more a, like, puzzle action-adventure game, because it's the first, I'd say, like, half of the game, like, mainly up to, like, Psycho Mantis, has a good bit of stealth, but after that, it's just not anymore.
It's set pieces and boss fights and forced combat interactions, you know?
Yeah, and so...
How'd you like the stairs?
It is... Oh man, we'll get to that. So I really... But yeah, I did like the stealth segments up until, the DARPA chief, and just the stealth segments in general. I love how, like, Kojima is just... You can tell he's almost a little Miyazaki-esque in where his placement of, like, traps and stuff, and that, like, he's putting them there like practical jokes. It's like, as you're going down a hallway, there'll be, like, a trap door or something that just insta-kills you if you don't move off it fast enough.
Ricky saw me fall into those plenty of times.
Yep.
And it was hilarious every time.
And, like, later on, the placements of, like, mines and stuff, and sometimes, like, gun cameras hidden off screen. It's, like, I would fall for those constantly, but I never felt like I could be mad about it, because it's just funny.
Bro, the gun cameras. I developed such a hateful relationship with them over my playthrough, bro. They're stupid and funny, but, like, goddamn, they're annoying.
Yeah.
Also, we have a question, Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Not the stairs, but You know when Otacon is like going to fix the elevator? You know those stairs?
Yes.
Was there a segment where as you're going up those stairs, there's one camera, and then 2 cameras, and then 3, and then 4?
Yes.
Okay. How do you deal with that without first-person shooting? I don't remember that.
Dude. Did you not use chaff grenades, Ransom?
So that's what you do? Because in Twin Snakes, you can just shoot them.
Oh, yeah, in MGS1, I was using chaff grenades more than I was using the actual weapons.
Yeah, that makes sense. You need them.
Yeah, like, you really need chaff grenades in MGS1. That's how you get past the gun cameras. There's some boss fights where you can get some sneaky hits in with the use of a chaff grenade.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that they're generally, like, one of your, like, most needed tools. So yeah, it's... So you mentioned the DARPA chief, and we get there.
Let Ricky go first.
Okay.
So what I had to look up, Natasha, the thing I remember about her the most, this didn't come up in Twin Snakes, but it is in MGS1. I don't even know if it's in the Twin Snakes. But like there's a portion where Snake is like, yeah, I snuck in my cigarettes, and then like if you talk to Naomi and Natasha and Mei Ling about cigarettes, Mei Ling and Naomi, like, I know Naomi like gives you the whole spiel, like, yeah, those are awful. They have this chemical in them that causes cancer. But when you talk to Natasha about it, she's just like, we're around radioactive shit and just dangerous shit all the time. So I don't think smoking's too bad.
I did not see that.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
That's a really funny
It's a fair point.
And yeah, the smoking thing, from what I understand, is like one of the big like running jokes in Metal Gear.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like Snake is like a chain smoker, and they have to put like a smoking warning in like every single game.
Yep.
I guess just to make sure that people don't get any ideas.
Yeah, I mean, did you know originally, when they were first making the game, this might have been Metal Gear 1, but they were worried that the higher ups at Konami would be like, no, you can't put cigarettes in there, you can't let players smoke. But they were cool with it because it drains your health, and they were like, well, that's a pretty clear sign that they're not good for you, so yeah.
Yeah, and that's another little detail I like. Also, that you can use the cigarettes to spot infrared lasers, which I thought was a fun little puzzle. And also, I think a big part of it might have also been, like, back in that time, I think Japan was still a very, very big, like, smoking culture. Like, smoking was just extremely common in Japan at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that may have been around the time where health organizations are like, okay, we kind of got to start cracking down on this stuff because, like, people are dying of lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I sent the conversations that happened. You don't have to watch them right now, but figured you'd want to see them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check them out. But yeah, you speak with the DARPA chief, and there is the whole thing about the nuke launches, and then you meet Meryl, who is an interesting character in this game.
Yeah, Meryl is, one, they do a lot with her in this game, to the point where it is kind of like, I'm surprised she only comes back in 4.
Wait, she only comes back in 4?
Oops. Sorry. But, yeah.
I mean, hey, I guess that lets me know that Otacon wins in the end.
Boy, does he. But yeah, she's really the secondary main character of the game. And,
well, up until a certain wolf comes in.
That's the thing, is it's like, she's really active, she's really cool, and like has a real character arc and real motivations slash weaknesses. But then she just exits the story for like a third or half of the game.
Yeah. Well, and it's also funny because it's I think Meryl is a fun character. She's kind of both like the rookie and the love interest. That she's like, you know, she's new to combat. She has all these ideas of what you want to be as a soldier. And I definitely think that Kojima is kind of using her and Snake to really hammer in to people about like just how kind of terrifying and brutal like actual combat is, and it's like it's not something you should want.
Mm-hmm.
I
feel like,
and then Meryl runs away at the end of that scene, and the camera zooms in on her ass.
yeah, it's kind of funny, but I don't know. There's a fair element of dude bro in Solid 1. And it feels weird, especially compared to the rest of this. It's just okay. Well, maybe
this will be an ongoing discussion.
It's back and forth. I'll say that, but
yeah, I think there is definitely a lot of problematic elements with Meryl. Of just Snake, you know, he also starts flirting with her really quickly. There's a whole puzzle in the game in which she disguises herself as an enemy soldier, and the solution is to watch the way the soldiers walk.
Mm-hmm.
And you find the one that wiggles a bit more as they walk, and that's her.
I don't know if it's worse in Twin Snakes, but it's bad in Twin Snakes. She's moving like like she's on a catwalk.
It's like I'm really of two minds here, because at once I'm like, okay, this is. I just would have loved to see like the meeting in which Kojima is like proposing this.
Apparently his team got really used to him proposing bullshit. Like, there's stories about some of the things he wanted to put into. And that was still back in the day when you could ask a single person to create a scene for you. And he'd be like, hey, can you do this for me? I think it'll be really funny. And they'll be like, I'm busy with this other thing, actually. And they'd all just lie to him so they wouldn't have to do some bullshit.
Back when people were, like, allowed to say no to Kojima.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you can definitely see, like, with this game, and definitely how, like, Meryl is treated, I can see the line where we eventually get quiet.
Yes. And it's weird, because I think... Let me see... 3... Ricky, would you say Eva in 3 is pretty, like... Wow?
I don't remember enough of it, to be honest.
Okay. Well... I'd say 2 and... No... I guess 2 is just the best game, is what I'm trying to say here. Unless I'm misremembering something, I'm pretty sure 2 is the only game in the series that doesn't have some fucking bullshit like that. Unless you're into armpits, and hairy armpits.
I think Rising, the only thing in it is, like, the one female boss wears a latex suit.
Yeah.
As I guess women just all do in Kojima's universe.
They're either that or they're naked.
Yep.
God, Kojima.
Yeah, and then after that we get our first of many, like, forced combat sequences. And I'll say,
that shit tough.
It's really interesting to go back and play, particularly, like, shooters before developers had kind of managed a universal language for this stuff in games. Like, this is very much when they're still figuring out how to actually, like, portray using a gun in a game.
Yeah, it's, It's actually pretty interesting how the series itself evolves with time and eventually becomes completely uniform, or almost completely uniform with the rest of the shooters on the market.
Yeah.
Not
'Cause in
saying
original-
it's a bad thing, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard many things about just how good 5 feels.
Yeah.
But 1, like, I definitely feel like 1, if it weren't for all of the forced combat sequences, I would say, like, the shooting is really hard because you're not supposed to be doing it.
Mm-hmm. But you can't really run that angle, can you?
Mm-mm. You know, because in this, it's you hold it down to aim, and they have to position it. Luckily I was able to actually use my analog stick here, but this must have been tough with D-pad in 8 directions. And you have to like let go of the button to fire, and so it's like I had trouble with Snake, you know, aiming properly and hitting stuff. And so like I eventually got used to it and eventually managed to find a good rhythm to the combat, but it's like it did take some getting used to.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is alleviated with the addition of first-person shooting. Did you ever figure out you can run and shoot at the same time?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good, because some fights... Ooh.
I imagine that stairway would,
Well, my solution to that is just stun grenades.
Oh yeah, same here. I mostly stun grenaded it and then and then run and gunned intermittently.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely think that like you're even in some of the boss fights, you're probably trying to like figure it out more like a puzzle than just kind of gameplay it. And then speaking about boss fights, I've talked with you personally a good bit about how much I kind of adore the whole first boss encounter in MGS1.
Revolver Ocelot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you getting to hear those lines is really funny. I love reloading in the middle of battle. Just all that.
This is the best handgun to have ever been made.
Which is quite the claim.
Yeah, especially because it's like one of the first handguns ever made. Not the very, but it's like it's really back there.
And it's like so the thing is like Otacon is just this character I'd heard, but I keep mixing up Otacon and Ocelot. Ocelot is one of those characters that I've heard so much about, and I know he's like one of the most important characters across the entire series. And so it's like he comes in, he talks a big game, he swirls his guns like he does in the other games, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm using the best handgun ever. Are you ready for a duel, Snake?" And then you beat him in a couple minutes, and then he immediately gets his arm cut off by a cyborg ninja.
Yeah, it's incredible how Revolver Ocelot, probably the like second or third most important character in the series. Like his very first introduction, he eats shit so fast.
He gets punked instantly.
He gets his get back with the torture, I guess, but like it is quite something.
Yeah, I adore it. I adore that scene so much. I laughed so hard when that happened.
Speaking of his arm getting cut off, can I just say, Gray Fox kind of sucks. Like, the fight is cool when you do fight him, the fist fight. And I think everything having to do with Gray Fox and Deep Throat before and during the fight is great, but everything after is just kind of whatever. Especially him dying to the Metal Gear by becoming a little brown stain on the floor. Like, I don't know. This is why Metal Gear 1 and 2 need to be remade, man. Without that context of knowing this character already, you're aiming with the Stinger missile, and you're trying to shoot Rex, and Snake is like, "No, I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it." And you're mashing the square button, and it's just like, I don't give a shit, man. Bro's gone. Bro is gone.
Yeah, it is interesting because like I didn't know that Gray Fox was a character actually from the original Metal Gears.
He's him and Big Boss, or just the things about Big Boss, are the biggest connections to Metal Gear 1 and 2.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I do think there is an interesting meta text in the narrative that can emerge when you play MGS1 first without playing Metal Gear 1 and 2, but I think we'll have to kind of get through more of the boss fights before I mention it. Because I actually am glad in a way that I didn't play Metal Gear 1 and 2 first.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's... So going ahead...
There's a prevailing theme throughout the series, I think, and it is regurgitation. I think Kojima really didn't want to keep making these games. I mean, this is confirmed fact. He did not want to keep making these games. And the games, they have a pattern of just history repeating itself. The same events happen over and over and over. And they all mean something in their own way with each game. But there really, really is a prevailing, like, we're just gonna keep doing the same shit over and over because that's all you piggies want. And you're gonna get sick of it eventually. And that finally concludes with, you know what? It's in your hands now. I'm gonna fuck off.
Well, I'd also argue, no, it concludes when we start regurgitating that history that Kojima is already referencing. And stuff in real life just starts happening that he had been talking about.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that for 5.
Yeah.
The Phantom Pain specifically. Which, boy, I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. And also, like, I think with Kojima as well, it's like, I think one of the big things is that, like, Kojima is just someone who is, like, interested in a lot of, like, things. I think that the details and the themes in his games don't necessarily come from, like, the fact that he's a super duper genius man. I think it's more just the fact that he is, like, I think he is someone who is just, like, naturally curious about stuff and would just kind of be reading stuff and taking looks at stuff, and if he just found something interesting, he'd just, kind of put it into his game. And I think it's just, like, I don't think, looking through this, I don't think he's necessarily the deepest person in the medium. I just think he was, like, a pretty well-educated guy who knew a good bit about history, knew a good bit about politics, and kind of understood historical narratives, and thus kind of could see where things, like, were currently kind of, going a little bit.
I agree with everything you just said. I'm just thinking about... You say he's definitely not, like, the smartest super genius in the business, but it's like... I'm gonna have the least to say thematically about this game, because I think this game has the least to say thematically. The theme is genetics, and how much do your genes impact the way you are, right?
Yeah, I would argue, I would go a little more fundamental with it. I would say, like, if I had to propose a theme for the game, I would say that I think that this is a game about whether or not you let your past affect your future, which is kind of goes back to the genes.
But in execution, I'm gonna be real, dude. Liquid is just talking about eugenics. That's all he's talking about. And
to be fair, yeah, but think about it. Eugenics, especially,
in their context, means a lot more to them. I understand that, but
yeah,
it's just coming off of 2, which I think is the smartest game in the series and one of the smartest games of all time. going backwards from that to this, where it's just like, I won't let my genes dictate who I am. And it's like, yeah? You mean it, buddy? Like, wow. I don't think it's incredibly thought-provoking. The game is more spy action thriller than thought-provoker. And it does provoke thoughts. There are some really good bits in there, but like, maybe just because genetics aren't that interesting compared to like memetics or just straight politics, right? But I have a hard time bringing myself to say this game has the best of anything in the series. I honest to God, like, pacing, it's 3, story, it's 2, gameplay, it's 5, boss fights, it's 4. I don't think 1 has any claim to fame other than being the first one, which isn't bad. That only means the series improved upon itself. But I really, really just can't... Playing the series backwards like this kind of leaves me unimpressed with MGS1. So playing it forwards for you, Carter, you're about to have your fucking mind blown. And I mean it. I think I think you're going to play 2 and 3, and both of those games you're going to be like, Jesus Christ. For completely different reasons, too. I think MGS3 is Resident Evil 4 levels of amazing pacing. I think that's a perfect video game. And 2 is just... It's just built different, man. It has... You can't play that game and not get goosebumps. It's insane. And Raiden is just so fundamentally a more interesting protagonist than MGS1 Solid Snake. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Solid Snake, especially in 2 and 4. But the way he acts in the first one, especially his like unresponsiveness to a lot of the situations, like Liquid proclaiming, "You enjoy the fighting, don't you?" And it's like, okay, I get that's a jab at the player. Like, oh, you enjoy killing, you enjoy the violence, that's a bad thing. But it's like, Snake, I don't think he gives much of a shit. He's more focused on Meryl than anything else, which...
I think there's definitely a kind of silent pain there. Especially like you look in the bad ending, and it's like, if you fail to save Meryl, like, Snake has this moment with Naomi where he's just like, please just talk to me about like anything else, like help me get my mind off of like the fact that I just got like an innocent person killed.
You know, I actually want to take back what I just said, because this is the most character arc Solid Snake ever gets. He becomes the man he should be at the end of this game. He's so caring, and like he and Raiden are the only real heroes, playable heroes in the series. Well, let me hold my tongue there. Hold on. We won't talk about that yet. But like, I'm gonna talk for 2 hours about Venom Snake, dude. You're not ready.
Are you about to... I was gonna say, are you about to tell me that Big Boss did nothing wrong?
No, I'm not going to say that one bit whatsoever. That's literally the man who sold the world, buddy. Fuck Big Boss. But Solid Snake, I really would use the word tired to describe him in this game, because even though it's the first time we're playing as him as most players, this is his third outing. He killed his dad twice. He's not up for this shit.
Not just that, he was retired. Like, this is this is the first game. It's kind of funny. It reminds me of Yakuza, where it's like, this is the first game, and where this is already Snake's, like, this is his big last job that he's coming out of retirement for. Just like,
exactly.
Kiryu, like, leaves the Yakuza at the end of the very first game.
It's like, how do I put this? I forget what I was going to say. Ricky, say something.
What?
Go ahead, buddy. Give us something
What?
insightful.
I love in Twin Snakes. I apparently this doesn't happen in the first one. I've never played the first one. I love the action that is so clearly inspired by Escape from New York
And the Matrix.
and the Matrix. Yes.
Yeah, I've heard the cutscenes in Metal Gear Twin Snakes are just so over the top and wacky.
They really
They are downright ridiculous.
And I love it so much.
I love it too, but I would never say this is a proper replacement for the first game, because tonally, it is all over the place.
Oh, I watched the Twin Snakes version of the scene where you first meet Meryl and then she runs away and shoots at you.
Mm-hmm.
And like I felt like I was having a stroke.
Yes.
I think my favorite bit in cutscene wise of the Twin Snakes is when you're fighting Liquid and he's in the helicopter, like on top of the tower.
You're about to say the grenade bit, aren't you?
Yes. So the helicopter shoots a missile at Snake, and Snake like backflip dodges it, kicks it mid backflip. And goes away from the missile, pulls a grenade out, pulls the pin, throws the grenade at like a baseball at the missile, and then it just explodes.
And the force of the
amazing.
explosion pushes Snake further back into safety.
Yes,
It is ridiculous, and
it's awesome.
I think my least favorite ridiculous moment is Liquid Snake during his big speech at the end overacts like the worst drama kid you've ever seen. And it's like, I cannot take this seriously. He is moving like an idiot. Liquid is such a fucking goober, dude.
Oh, I love it.
I think Liquid stands for nothing. I think Liquid is the dumbest. Yeah, I'll go. I think Liquid is the dumbest MGS antagonist. He's so spiteful and stupid.
He's very goofy.
He's a goofy guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, he's obviously not super smart with the stuff he's talking about genetics. How you're dominant in your recessive genes.
Yeah, which, oh my god, can we get into that for a second? First of all, dominant and recessive don't mean better and worse. That doesn't mean that. Second, the reveal that Solid is the one with the recessive and Liquid dominant. Why the fuck does Liquid have blonde hair? What? I just assume he dyes it. That's my assumption. But like,
Perhaps.
I don't know, bro. Liquid is a goober and an idiot, and I love him, but I'm fine with. I prefer the other villains.
Alright, so rapid fire.
We can talk about. Go ahead.
Some of the bosses.
Yeah, oh my god, you took the words out of my mouth. Let's talk about the bosses. Revolver
Okay.
Ocelot. You need to play Twin Snakes up to that point just to see how bad that is.
Oh my god.
It is just looking at him and shooting him. It is that easy. It's stupid.
Oh yeah, I imagine, because it's aiming and shooting takes way more time, so you have to like kind of out-juke
Yes.
Liquid and trick. I mean, you have to out-juke Otacon and like
Ocelot.
trick him into
Ocelot.
running into your Ocelot into running into your gunfire.
Yeah, it's. I
Then
like
there's-
that fight in the original version. It's tricky.
Yeah. Then there's the first battle with Vulcan Raven. It's preceded by
And the
one of my
tank.
favorite Kojima traps, which is you walk out. I don't know if this happened for you, but like there's that minefield right outside of the entrance.
Oh,
and
it
it's-
happened to me.
I walk out and it's like the codec call comes up right as I step on the mine.
Yes,
and it
yes,
explodes.
it's perfect.
And I think I was like low on health, so I think it just instantly killed me.
That's great. The tank fight is pretty cool. It's a good use of the grenades that you probably aren't using much outside of that. I think it's fun. It's also kind of ruined a little bit by first-person aiming, because you can just shoot the person coming out of the tank. But it's still fun to lob the grenades in there. So, is Psycho Mantis after that?
No, it's Gray Fox is next.
Yeah, you're right. I like that fight.
It's a fun fight. I think it goes on for way too long.
Strangely enough, I think I like that fist fight better than the one with Liquid.
I've heard people say the same thing. Because Gray Fox has more gimmicks, I think.
Yeah.
He has like the teleporting, the invisibility. You can get like a sneaky hit in with him if you use the chaff grenades. It's a fun fist fight.
I like that fight.
Otacon pees himself.
Which is great. Great set piece. Pissacon.
Yeah, I'd always known Hal Emmerich, he calls himself Otacon. I didn't know what that stood for,
You
Ransom.
never do. You never do. It stood for Otaku Convention.
Otaku Convention. And also that, like, the first thing he says is, that was, like, one of my Japanese animes.
Yeah, I meant it when I said he pisses himself and says anime.
I think we should bring Japanime back. Isn't that what he said?
He does call it Japanimation. I don't think we should do
Japanimation.
that.
Well, as I mentioned, and as I scripted out in our intro, I don't know if otaku should be allowed to, like, have jobs. Because they just use him to make a walking nuke machine and completely dupe him. Like, oh no, Snake, oh no, I didn't know this big mech could be used to launch horrible, destructive missiles. It's...
To be fair, he does redeem himself within the game.
He does redeem himself within the game, and I love his character. It's just...
Otacon's so real the whole time.
It feels like they trick him very easily into making a just world-ending machine.
Yeah.
And I love that specifically he wanted to become a scientist and make robots because of anime. Honestly, just even with all my
Relatable.
jokes, he's real for that.
He's so real for that. Otacon's the realest character in the series. I love him. He might be my favorite.
He's my favorite so far.
So after Gray Fox, that's Psycho Mantis, right?
Yes. You have the somewhat uncomfortable scene in the restroom with Meryl. Where they do a whole like changing scene with her.
Yep.
Good old Kojima. There's another gameplay thing. You have the gas mask puzzle before that.
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
There's the gas mask puzzle, which is pretty neat. I like the stinger missile puzzle as well.
Yeah, I like that one. That's fun. I think the stinger missile is just fun to use.
Yeah,
Is it the stinger
I
missile, or was it
I
named
liked
something
the puzzle.
else?
Or there's two different types of missiles. I think the stinger missile is the lock-on, and the other is the remote control.
Yeah. But I forget what the remote control... Nikita.
Yeah, Nikita missiles.
It's literally his, like, side special in Smash. How could we forget? But yeah, I love that puzzle. I think that's a highlight of the game for me. Of course, Psycho Mantis is the most iconic part of the game for a reason. It's a great fight.
And he's within, like, the first 3 hours.
He is.
He is so early.
If y'all were unaware, audience, obviously you already know about the put your controller into port 2. On the GameCube, they make you do that thrice for all 4 controller ports, which is really funny. Because playing it on an emulator was a lot of clicking around.
Yeah, you had to get into those menus a lot. I thought it was a lot with the PS1 emulator. I was just like, man, I kind of wish I could just unplug this from one USB port and put it in the other.
Yeah, you know that won't work.
Hey, so you want to know what's even worse?
What's even worse?
You want to know the actual worst version of this?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, on the original PC version of Metal Gear Solid, the one you can get on, like, GOG still, what it did instead is if you were playing on keyboard and mouse, you had to then plug in a USB controller. And if you were on a USB controller, you had to switch to keyboard and mouse.
That's making it quite the assumption that you own both of those things.
Especially,
Yeah, I was
like, if that came out, like, when Metal Gear Solid came out, that is a big assumption, I think.
oh yeah.
That's very stupid. I hate that. Luckily, there is a way to beat Psycho Mantis without the controller thing.
Yeah, as in, like you shoot the helmet in his in the corner of his room. Yeah. And so yeah, I think past the gimmick, I do like the Psycho Mantis fight. I think it's a really kind of fun video gamey boss fight where he's just slinging stuff around and you gotta dodge it. The game just makes you beat up Meryl in the middle of fights,
Which is very funny.
I also love how, like, Psycho Mantis is just like, aha, I have possessed your friend. There's nothing you can do to stop me now. And Snake just immediately knocks her out.
To be fair, that's a lot less awkward in Twin Snakes when you have a tranquilizer pistol.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I never found a tranquilizer pistol. And I didn't know if that was in the game.
It doesn't exist in the original.
I also never found the silencer for the pistol.
I'm not surprised. It's like... You know the room you have to explode the rat in?
Explode the rat in.
To get the PAL key.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You remember the key that you have to heat and cool?
It's like it's a lot of water and like little canals.
When is this?
Later on. It's near the end of the game. Okay. It's... Snake has one key, and he's like, but I need all 3 keys to deactivate the launch sequence. And Otacon's like, oh, you actually have all three keys right now. One is room temperature, then you have to cool it, freeze it, and then you have to heat it up. There's no way you don't remember this.
Yeah, but like, which room is it within the sequence?
Snake drops the key. This is before the
at the bottom of so it's at the bottom of the Metal Gear hangar.
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere in that water. This is in Twin Snakes. I don't know if it's in both, but somewhere in that water is the suppressor. I think that's right. Ricky, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think it's to the left.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so late in the game, it's like, I don't even fucking care.
You know, like a whatever kind of thing. But yeah, once you beat Psycho Mantis, you then get what is kind of a recurring thing that, I feel like there are some parts in the game in which I'm not as big of a fan of it, and then some parts of the game where it does work for me, where it's a character will just be like, alright, character arc time, here's my entire backstory right now. And I personally, I wasn't a big fan of this with Meryl. I didn't like the super long monologues from her. Where she just kind of speedruns a character arc in one monologue. But I did kind of like it in the, I liked it in a lot of the boss fights. I liked it with Psycho Mantis, because I guess with them, it's less trying to speedrun a character arc and more of a, like, recontextualization. Like, we're gonna kind of get you to look at this character differently now that they are, like, on death's door. And you get this interesting moment where Snake, who's been this kind of standoffish, super tough guy, Hollywood character, in kind of this last moment, he treats Mantis with just like a little bit of kindness, where you just, I really like that very human moment at the end, where after he's done like telling you about like his childhood and war and everything that he's done, he then is just like, hey, can I like please? Could you like please put the mask back on? I'd like to just be alone with my own thoughts and no one else's before I die. And Snake does it, and it's a really like kind of nice moment that I think that might be where the game is trying to kind of start setting in motion some of the ideas it's going to be giving you about, I think particularly about how one of the ideas in this game is that like a lot of people have like a variety of different reasons of why they would, kind of take up arms or end up becoming a soldier. Some for like personal reasons, some for like a kind of sense of honor, I guess. But I think what the game is kind of trying to say is that like a lot of these people kind of come in and then are kind of manipulated. They're almost like kind of flattened, I guess, by the system and made to do all these like really terrible things. And just this kind of idea, I guess, that like, the military-industrial complex doesn't have any room for humanity.
I'll say the big thing for me that separates Solid Snake and Big Boss is Snake is willing to question orders and make his own decisions. That's the real big difference, is Snake is willing to be his own man and do the right thing on his own terms.
Oh yeah, he just straight up like goes off on the Colonel throughout most of like the end of the game. And I really like that. Especially because it's like I knew about Fox Die in MGS4, but I didn't know that it would start being a thing from 1, and just the very idea that like they Dr. Naomi sent in Snake as a walking biohazard to spread a disease and kill everyone is just like, oh, that is
They should steal that for Resident Evil.
They really should.
Some pretty good themes of revenge in this game, I'd say.
Yeah.
Gray Fox, Naomi, Liquid, even. Liquid, different kind of revenge. Kind of revenge against his father, but in a...
Against his father, against his genetics, against his past.
Yeah, I will fulfill the dream you never could.
Would you say that Metal Gear Solid could be called a kill the past game?
1, yes. Just 1. And 4, kind of. But that's tough. Ask me again after every game.
And I will say it is also super interesting because it's like I do like that the bosses in this game are treated with like a ton of humanity, especially because like just a few years later we would get into like what is probably like one of the biggest modern like dehumanizing wars with the War on Terror. Like, and that it's like this game is like very much willing to recognize it's like even if these people are like coming here and doing bad things, a lot of them have had like extremely messed up lives, and like they didn't just get here out of an innate evil or a sense of or be just because they were like inherently bad. It's all these characters spent their entire like childhoods essentially getting bombed. Immediately after Psycho Mantis, Meryl has her character arc and gets shot by Sniper Wolf.
Now, it's a good moment for...
By the way...
It's a good intro for Sniper Wolf, I'll say that. Go ahead, Ricky.
Meryl gets tore the fuck up by some bullets. She makes a really miraculous recovery based on how many bullet wounds she has.
No kid. Like, I feel like Kojima probably saw, like, that scene from Full Metal Jacket at the end where, there's that ending confrontation with the sniper that like shoots one of the squad members and just keeps shooting them in non-essential areas to try and like lure the rest of the people out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Meryl is just like bleeding on the floor, and the game tells you, hey, time for some backtracking.
Backtrack and find a sniper rifle, which is like the most stressful thing in the world.
Which, by the way, I looked it up. Carter, you had to go way farther back than we did, because the Twin
Really?
Snakes has it like, yeah, a lot closer. I'm pretty sure.
I think I have to go all the way back to the hangar at the beginning.
Right. This one is in the same. It's in the Psycho Mantis building.
Yeah, which it's very funny. The game is actually like a lot smaller than you might initially think. Like you can run through the entire game in just a few minutes, which does help with the backtracking.
Yeah, it's not a huge map.
It's just very like vertical and filled with puzzles. I think that's a really cool way of doing it and working with the like limited space they had on the PS1. But you have to go all the way back to the beginning to get the sniper rifle while Meryl's just bleeding on the floor.
Genius Kojima. Why did he do
Genius Kojumbo. And then you have a boss fight with Sniper Wolf. Which, how do you feel about the Sniper Wolf boss fights?
It's pretty good. It's been outdone since, but it's an okay fight.
Yeah, I don't know how the sniper rifle works in... I don't know how the sniper rifle works in Twin Snakes, but, like, in the first game, it makes you lay down, and if you get shot or hurt at all, it, like, spins you around and completely messes up your aim, because the sniper rifle zooms in enough to where when you're jerked around like that, you just don't know where you're aiming anymore.
Yep.
I did eventually, so for both boss fights, I did use a little cheese strategy I developed, which is just, when Sniper Wolf is hiding, I'm just tapping the item menu button over and over until I see her start to move, and then I'll keep it paused and be like, okay, she's coming out the left side or the right side, so when I get out of the item menu, I'll just make the cursor go that way.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that makes the fights a lot easier.
So,
and then...
after Sniper Wolf, is that the stairs and helicopter?
No. Well, after the first Sniper Wolf is the torture segment.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You beat Sniper Wolf, and you go down that hallway, and you are captured by Ocelot's men.
Mm-hmm. How'd you like the torture sequence?
Oh boy.
I'll tell you now,
It's
they made it a lot easier in Twin Snakes.
Okay, it's rough.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually cheesed it by sliding a marker over the button of my controller, which is one of the old school cheesing strategies, apparently.
I feel bad for all the kids who just could not do that.
I bet that was written, like, typed out in a magazine somewhere, like a guide or something, in like fucking Game Informer or PC, like just some magazine.
The fact they make you do it twice too.
But yeah, I think it's obviously supposed to be a kind of like ludonarrative thing where it's like Kojima really wants you to empathize, I guess, with Snake getting tortured, especially because you have to do it at least twice. Like, if I had done the torture, if I had like completed the torture segment on my own, and then gotten to the point where they pull you in the room again, I actually might have given up there.
Fuck Meryl.
Oh, also, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if they do this in the Twin Snakes. That torture sequence if you get a game over there, you don't get to continue. It
What?
boots you back to the main menu.
Do you just load the last save?
Yes.
Hmm.
You want to know where my last manual save was, Ransom?
Oh no.
Right after Psychomantis.
Oh god.
So I had to go through, do the backtracking segment again, do the wolf segment, the wolf stealth again, which, oh man, I found the wolf room pretty, I found the wolf room pretty infuriating. I felt like those things, like, spotted me really easily.
Oh yeah, those wolves are bastards. Did you know when you get Sniper Wolf's handkerchief, the wolves will be nice to you if you have it equipped?
Yeah, and I did use Sniper Wolf's handkerchief after a certain point. I also read that there's another strategy, which is if you hit Meryl when you're at the end of the first time you go through the room, she'll get mad and sick the dogs on you.
Oh, that's great.
So, but what you do is if you hit Meryl and then immediately use your cardboard box, instead the dog will pee on the box, which makes them not aggressive to you anymore.
Kojima the genius.
I feel like that is one of those, like... Wasn't there an old rumor that Kojima kind of let every person on staff, like, put in one Easter egg?
I don't know, maybe. It sounds correct.
That... If that is true, I feel like that's one of them.
Easy.
But yeah, it's... So I had to go through, like, what was basically an hour of gameplay again. And that's when I... And that's when I started using the cheese strategy, because it's just like, I'm not.
Yeah, no, fuck
I'm
this.
not.
Did Ocelot look at the camera in the original and go, "I'll know if you're using turbo, and I hope you saved recently"?
Yeah, he does say that, and that's why he says, you haven't saved in a while. It's what's funny is apparently there is actually no recourse for using turbo. He actually doesn't know. It's a bluff.
What a master manipulator.
I swear, Liquid, Otacon, Ocelot.
Christ, dude!
You went through
Ocelot,
3, bro.
Revolver Ocelot is just such a dick-ass villain.
I love him. I love
He
him.
shows up, you fight him, and then you beat him. He then gets his arm cut off and runs away, tortures you, kidnaps your friend, and threatens them with death. And then at the end of the game, he just leaves. He doesn't even stick around for the climax.
Turns out he was on top of it the whole time, too. Double agent type shit.
You get the fun prison escape puzzle.
Yeah, that one's good. I like that one.
Yeah, it's funny. I like... Is the guard in that room the same one that Meryl beat up?
Yeah.
Because he talks about, like, oh, she took my clothes. Oh. And so I was wondering if, like, wait, if that's the same guard she knocked out in the original room.
If there's ever someone shitting themselves, it's the same person.
Oh, that is wonderful.
There's a guy with chronic diarrhea in Metal Gear Solid.
As it should be, as it should be. Let's see. You then eventually do the second sniper... Wait. I'm getting the order mixed up as well. Is the helicopter or Sniper Wolf 2 next? It's helicopter, okay.
So I thought we were talking about Sniper Wolf 2 when we were talking about the fight. The first fight in Twin Snakes is just point and shoot, you know?
Yeah, well, it's point and shoot in
Oh,
for
yeah,
the second
yeah.
one as well. I just wanted to go ahead and say the strategy for both, since they're kind of the same fight. You get the kind of infamous tower run sequence where the game just throws dozens of enemies at you.
That's the one time Snake decides to not tiptoe upstairs.
Mm-hmm. There's that really frustrating bridge where there are enemies at the end of it that just fire a hail of bullets at you. And I imagine it's not as much of a problem in Twin Snakes,
Nah,
but
it's not that bad.
in MGS1, you just can't hit them with normal weapons because they are like so far off your screen.
Sniper rifle works, right?
So, like, I had to use sniper rifle and the Nikita missiles because after a certain point they just start firing anyways with the sniper rifle, and those bullets reach the wall of that room. Um, the let's see, the helicopter fight was fun. It took me a little bit of trial and error to figure out what it was wanting me to do when like the helicopter goes down. Um, to where you like can't necessarily shoot it. But I liked it. It was a fun fight, a nice set piece. The rappelling was pretty cool and like really impressive for the PS1.
Snake does some wild shit during that in Twin Snakes, by the way, of course.
Of course. And then you get Sniper Wolf 2, which I think is I think that's a really interesting scene in the game because it kind of has all of, I think when you kill Sniper Wolf, that kind of has kind of all of the conflicts in the game, in which like you get kind of the conflicts with the boss fights. You also get the character conflict between Snake and Otacon there. Whereas Otacon like really, really didn't want Snake to kill Sniper Wolf. And I think it also really pushes kind of just how these like really traumatized individuals were being like manipulated kind of by Ocelot and Liquid. And it was kind of at this point, this is the point where I was a little actually okay with not having played Metal Gear 1. Because the way I looked at it is that all of these bosses, especially Psycho Mantis and Sniper Wolf, they all have these like intricate backstories that are kind of preceding this big event that everyone is kind of jumbled up into. And I feel like not playing Metal Gear 1 made me kind of feel it almost equalized Snake with with the villains, and that like Snake also has this intricate backstory. He has the whole thing with Zanzibar and Gray Fox and Big Boss, but it's because I haven't personally seen it, I'm putting that backstory like on the same level with the rest of the villains.
He feels like just as much of a character as the rest of them do.
Yeah, and it's like it's you know, to kind of steal the quote from Rising, you know, it kind of makes that moment feel, you know, like standing here, you kind of realize that like there's not much at all that separates Snake from the antagonist, and it could have just as easily been him.
That's right.
And that's why I feel like the game is very much about this idea of like, do you let your past determine your future? And that like a lot of these characters are kind of like in a way succumbing to their pasts. Whereas like Snake is kind of the person at the end who chooses to kind of forge on and live a different type of life and not be burdened by his past. Let's see. And also, I will say, another thing is that I knew that the Metal Gear Solid series was political. I didn't know that from the first game, they were, like, name-dropping fairly recent conflicts. Like,
oh yeah,
they talk about, like, the Gulf War in this game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, don't they talk, what do they talk about the Gulf War? Because I remember that too. It's like some experiment during the Gulf War, I think.
It's the soldiers who went to the Gulf War are the...
Oh, yeah.
They were the genome soldiers.
Right, yeah. That's right.
And it's crazy because I think like the Gulf War was about as close to MGS1, if not closer, than how 9/11 was to Metal Gear Rising.
Yep.
And that's name dropped. Like,
Just like the good old days after 9/11.
so it's like they are referencing what are kind of current events in the game. And I really, really like that. I really enjoy that. It makes it feel like the game is kind of trying to embed itself in a like living, breathing history. Like they talk about like the Kurds as well, which is super interesting. Like the game is very much willing to be very critical of America. Like, you know, like I think like Snake says like, you know, we shouldn't have like abandoned the Kurds or something like that. There's a part there's a part later on in the game where like Miller is just willing to say like, oh yeah, that like president was just a well-known racist.
I love Metal Gear so much.
Yeah, I think it's really refreshing, and it's nice to see from a spy novel, well, a spy thriller, because it's, you know, especially back in those days, spy thrillers did tend to still have like a kind of patriotism embedded with them, because like, you know, the heyday of the spy genre was kind of during the Cold War, and so a lot of them would be, you know, like, yeah, we gotta protect the USA from Russia because we're good and they're bad. And so it's nice to see, and I know that there's always going to be stuff that goes against that. There are probably a lot more like gray area things that had already existed beforehand. But it's just interesting to see it from a video game so early within the development of storytelling in this medium. Because
it was a huge leap. Like, it was from 0 to 100.
Yeah. And so it's like, I don't want to necessarily make or say that like this game did it first or this game trailblazed in like storytelling in general, but it definitely did
say
a lot of really interesting things for the medium.
I'll say in the public eye, it was that. It was the first, you know? It was the first big game to do that. Because, you know, you can go and find different things. It's just like Street Fighter, you know? You can go and find all different fighting games before Street Fighter 2 that had elements like this and that and the other. But it was Street Fighter 2 to put them all together and make it work. And I think you could say something similar about MGS1 with storytelling.
Yeah, and it's just, even with all of the, like, hiccups it has, the way it does kind of, you already kind of see Kojima's showing versus telling issues. It's still, like, kind of amazing how well it did for how early it was.
I agree.
And so, and, you know, after that fight, you also kind of get one of the big lines from the game, where Otacon asks Snake, you know, do you think love can bloom on a battlefield? Do you have any thoughts on that line and maybe how it relates to the series?
It doesn't relate to the series too much. I don't think that's like a through line through the rest of the games. There are definitely things love related, but I wouldn't say love is an overall theme of Metal Gear Solid. It is there.
But there is a theme of love.
There is a literal theme of love, yes, but it's not. 3 is kind of about love. 4, we'll have to talk about 4, but Rising and 5, not really. But within this game, I think that question serves a lot just for Solid Snake. It's like, can Snake, this super soldier, this person who has been chiseled and worn down by war and battle for all of his adult life, can he still be human? Can he still love? And the game answers that question at the end. You know, the answer is yes.
And then the next game answers, actually, no.
I don't think I think 2 specifically is not concerned with the question of love. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I know he eventually comes back out of retirement, and
well,
it is.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But
yeah.
Go ahead.
I know that you feel like this game is very much eclipsed by the next 2 games and like what it has to say. It's just like, it is really interesting to hear, like, to go through and people talking about, you know, the military industrial complex, which I don't know if that was like a super well-known thing during the late 90s. Like, obviously, like, academics and people who had like studied the stuff in college would obviously know about it, but I didn't know if it was something that had entered had entered public thought.
We're gamers thinking about the military-industrial complex.
Didn't Dwight D. Eisenhower like warn against the industrial complex, like pretty soon after his presidency?
Maybe.
Yeah. It was his farewell address in 1961. He warned against the establishment of a military-industrial complex.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, with this being post, like, Vietnam and stuff, it probably had gotten more traction now that I think of it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
fair.
obviously, like, was not, I definitely was not thinking about the military-industrial complex in 1999, because, I don't know if I was speaking in 1999.
Yeah, it's a bit before our time. So, moving on. We get the elevator where Otacon goes, "Oh my god, they're out there with you, Snake!" And then you get the funny close-up shot of him.
That's actually before, but I do love that moment.
Ricky and I just played this game, bro. How am I misremembering the order of things?
You have brain rot. You have brain rot.
It's also just because, like, this is such a snappy, game where things just keep happening over and over and over
They do just
again.
happen one after another. You are right.
Like,
There's
at
very
this
little
point in the game,
downtime.
like, it's not a stealth game at this point. You've just been doing boss fights, like, non-stop, essentially,
Yep.
and you're about to do, like, the last stealth section, which is just one room.
Yeah. So the next boss would be Vulcan Raven, right?
I liked the fight.
He's cool. I like that fight too. It's cool. I like his design. I love his big, stupid ammo tank on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky thought that the bird on his forehead looked like the Nazi eagle, which was funny.
It does look.
It's
like real close.
It does look like it. How did I beat him? A combination of just getting behind him and shooting the back of his head in first person.
Okay.
Putting mines on the floor, and eventually just running and gunning.
I used Nikita missiles for most of the fight.
Oh, that too, actually. Yeah, at the beginning of the fight when he's walking slow enough, that works great. But then eventually...
Ransom tried that. Yeah, it didn't work the second half of the fight.
No,
sure.
It doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
He's way too fast.
Yeah, second half of the fight, he'll sometimes just, like, swivel on, like, 180 degrees and just immediately destroy a missile you've, like, shot out. But see, what I did is I used the Nikitas for, like, the first half, and then I used the C4 for the second half. I think sometimes I got a grenade to work as well,
Oh wow.
but I don't think I ever shot him.
So let's see. Then after him, you have the PAL key stuff, which is fucking stupid. I hate that segment.
Well, I've heard that in Twin Snakes there's a much easier way to do that puzzle.
Well, I didn't do it. I don't know
Wait,
what.
you didn't know?
No.
Okay, so
I went in the rooms and waited for like 2 whole minutes both times.
that's what I had to do as well. You didn't have to do that, Ransom.
Do you know what the solution is?
Yes.
What is it?
In the Metal Gear hangar,
So
there
the-
are 2
the same room.
pipes that you can shoot open. Yes, in the same room. There are 2 pipes you can shoot open. One blowing hot steam at you, and the
Wow.
other blowing cool air at you.
That's really.
And
That's great.
you just had to stand by those.
Well, I didn't know about that, so I had to do the whole thing. But good to know for a replay if I ever replay it. Probably won't. So
And
yeah,
you
you do that, and you get the twist that Liquid was banking on you doing that the whole time, which is pretty good.
yeah, I really like the moment where it they reveal that you actually use the PAL keys to turn the launch stuff on. I think it really gets you if you have to do the whole room puzzle like manually.
Yeah, it is a real just like, god damn it.
Because it's like it makes you wonder for a second, oh no, am I gonna get like a special game over? Did I do something wrong?
That's good. No, Liquid was just banking on that. You get the reveal that he killed Miller and was disguising himself the whole time, that's a good surprise, slash now having a relationship with Kazuhira through Peace Walker and 5. It's pretty sad. It's like, fucking Miller, dude. Damn.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing him in the next few games.
He's like a real ass character.
Yeah, I do like how they have him take the wig off, or no, just let his hair down within the codec.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's really
obviously,
good.
like, well, that's also that might be one of the few cheats in the game because it's like I bet they couldn't have animated that necessarily.
No.
On the model on the PS1.
But it works great in practice. Yeah, you don't even think about it being a cheat. I didn't even think about that up till now.
Yeah, and okay,
Um,
speaking about codecs, the other thing is like, okay, that zoomed in face of Otacon, I'm
It's really
so
funny.
tempted to make that my profile picture.
Do it.
Do it,
I-
pussy,
Do it right now.
Do it, pussy.
Do it, pussy.
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 Do it,
Do it.
pussy.
Fucking pussy.
Pussy.
Do it.
Do it, pussy. Pussy.
Pussy. I'm going to max out my credit card and then kill myself.
Okay.
okay.
What did you say, Ricky?
I didn't say shit, brother.
He said.
Uh-oh, boner alert.
That's what
Some
Snake and
gigantic
Otacon say at the end of the
Ricky.
game.
That is
Y'all are
what they
still
say.
playing Kingdom Hearts?
Okay, back to Metal Gear.
Okay.
So then you
Um,
have the Rex fight. I think it's pretty good.
I like that it's actually kind of difficult on the
Mhm.
PS1 version because some of the boss fights aren't necessarily the hardest, and you can cheese a lot of them. But I feel like the Rex fight, you just actually kind of have to lock in.
Yeah, you have to really know when to shoot and when to run.
And where to run for each attack.
Yep.
Oh, I'd like to hear how the liquid. Oh wait, am I skipping ahead? I was going to talk about the liquid fight on top of the Metal Gear.
That's right after.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like right after. And yeah, I mean, just Stinger missile, fun fight. You get the whole spiel with Gray Fox, which you say you don't super care about.
Yeah, I just don't give a shit.
I will say
it's
it
a good
is,
No,
it's
I
a good
mean-
moment.
I mean the fist fight.
Yeah,
with
that's
Liquid?
after. That's after.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's like right after. I do
Where
think
Liquid
that
takes both of your shirts off for some reason.
Yep, it
Mhm.
does.
Now, I will say, I do kind of like the moment where Snake is not willing to shoot the missile at Gray Fox, because I do think that that is like actually a pretty core part of his character development. Is that
I
like,
agree. It's a good moment, especially like how many games would like deny you an action because the character refuses to do. You know, like that's
yeah,
good gameplay doing
It's-
storytelling moment.
yeah.
But I don't give a shit about Gray Fox to the point where I'm just like, man, I sure do wish I could just shoot this Stinger missile and destroy Rex. But oh well, Snake says no. But that's him rebelling not only against his orders, but rebelling against the player, maybe. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you do kind of the second phase of the fight, and then you go for the shirtless fist fight with Liquid.
Which is like... It's so nothing. That shirtless fist fight... It's... Like, after playing 4 recently, man... Woof. It's so nothing.
I liked it. It was just a fun, cheesy, like, final fight. And like, I don't know, just I feel like both Liquid and Ocelot are kind of just like these very like smarmy villains of just like they feel the need to like blackmail you and kidnap people to like make you fight them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Um
They're very dastardly villains.
yes.
Ricky, did you have a thought about the
About the fist fight?
Yeah.
It's I didn't really have a thought. I just wondered if it was the exact same in MGS1
It is.
as it was in Twin Snakes. Okay.
I just started rolling into that motherfucker. Because the roll is good. Got a big hitbox. He can't dodge around it. It's great.
I just would kind of bait hits and then go in and hit him afterwards.
I just wish the CQC would do damage. I call it CQC. I wish the flipping him around would do damage.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And then after that,
Is the escape sequence, right? On the truck?
yeah. We do have, and yeah, this is where we get kind of the stuff about like the Gulf War and the Super Baby method, and just like yeah, no, where Kojima kind of puts a lot of his like just personal thoughts on recent events and history in, which I do appreciate. I do like, that is one of my big like things from this game is that like I thought it was just Rising that was this like kind of intensely political, but no, it's been there from the start.
Yeah,
like
it's always been there. Even in Metal Gear 2, there's some pretty big political themes.
Yeah, well, I mean, Metal Gear Solid 2 was, famously ahead of its time by about 2 days.
Metal Gear 2, like.
Oh yeah, Metal Gear 2. But yeah, it's because it's, I feel like there's always been a big discussion around the political nature of the game, and there's a lot of different things you can mean when you say like a game is political. It can be through just like general ideas. It could be like an allegory. Lots of games, especially in this area, like Final Fantasy VII, very political game, but it used a like separate world and a fictional setting and fictional concepts to make points about stuff like environmentalism and consumerism. But this is a game that was just like very willing to deal with the actual like world and events that were like happening not just long ago,
Yes.
and is willing to just name drop political concepts.
Very probably brave, honestly, for the time. I don't know. I don't know if that was at all looked at with ire.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's before people knew that they were supposed to be mad about at stuff like this.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Probably mostly people just thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you get that chase sequence on the car,
which is cool. I think that's directed very
which
well.
controls terribly.
It does control. It's better. It's still not great in Twin Snakes, but it's better.
I hate the segment where you're fighting just the soldiers.
Yeah.
Because they're super spread out. And when you pull in for those fight segments, Meryl pulls like to the side. And so you have to, if you were facing the front of the car, like you would expect to be doing, you then have to turn all the way, 90 degrees.
Yep.
And I think specifically in like the second checkpoint, the people just stand so far away from each other. They're like basically on opposite sides of the room. And it takes so long to aim at them, and they take so many hits. It just, ugh.
Very
It's
aesthetically hype, but gameplay kind of deflating.
yeah.
There's so many points in that game where I'm just like, how are you supposed to no damage this?
Yeah, especially when Liquid comes up afterwards, and you gotta, shoot him a bunch. Because I feel like there are segments in that fight where it's just he is going to, like, shoot you at some point.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, you get to the end, and you get that stupid line, "Fox, die," which is just silly. Liquid overacted his death incredibly in Twin Snakes, by the way. You should look that up. He dies twice.
He dies twice.
He dies, gets back up to dramatically look at Snake in the eye, and then dies again.
That is amazing.
It's so fucking dumb.
But yeah, it's I do think it's very poetic that Liquid goes out by Fox die. Because he is the one who is always who's obsessed with the past. He is obsessed with the genetics.
Mm-hmm. It
he
thematically
is the one
works
who
great,
kind of-
yeah.
Yeah, he believes, he essentially believes that our genetics are past. Because the genetics is just kind of like the past of our own bodies, are kind of like
Everything.
history, I guess. Yeah, and it just makes sense then that, like, with his just such intense belief that is all that matters.
That is what undoes him.
That is what undoes him, is the disease that specifically targets it. And you could maybe make a through line there of like, obsessing over the past can kill you. It can just unravel your life. Also in the idea of like how, I don't know if you would necessarily say Liquid is a fascist, but there's also the whole angle of like a lot of fascist regimes, if they weren't like taken out by an outside power, a lot of times they just ended up collapsing on their own by people backstabbing each other.
That's right.
But yeah, there's so much you can kind of look at in the way this game's story unfolds, and kind of see parallels with just political and sociological ideas. I think that's what really made this game catch on, is even along with just the really, really charming character interactions.
I will say, I think this game is the first half of an inspection of the past. I think Solid 2 gives you a more full picture of what do you do with your genes? What do you do with things you can't change, with the past?
Yeah, because it is, that'll be interesting to go to, because the end of this game kind of makes it kind of sounds like the game is saying like, hey, no, you can just leave all that behind.
It's a full rejection.
Your present and your future is all that matters. You don't have to engage with the past. Well, I mean, the past coming back and haunting you is very much a big thing, but it's like the characters kind of succeed in leaving the past behind, I guess, and just going to live new lives. But as we kind of know from the fact that this isn't the last Metal Gear Solid game,
Then
that
maybe
might not.
there's a little more to it than that.
Maybe there's a little more to it. I also love the ending partly because I also love the exchange between you and Naomi, where Snake is like, "Well, I haven't died from Fox Die yet. Naomi, can you please tell me how much time I have left, Naomi, please?" And she's just like, yeah, don't worry about it. Choose life, just don't worry about it."
I do like that Naomi. I like Naomi's character arc. I think she really learns her lesson.
Yeah, I really like her character arc as well. It's funny that she just, at the end of it, she just does not answer Snake. It's
Revenge,
just like-
revenge in itself is letting your past dictate your actions now.
Yeah.
It's the non-willingness to let something go. And, well, I don't know. I think this will stay incomplete until next time.
Yeah. The last scene of the game is Snake and Meryl getting on that snow machine and riding off into the sunset and beginning their new life together. Even though we know that, as soon as she looks the other way, he's going to Otacon.
That's right. That's right.
Because we know that Otacon wins, because, we know that Snake and Otacon get together, because, Snake ends up impregnating Otacon, and Otacon has Sunny, and that's why she shows up in Rising, right?
4, actually. She's in both.
Yeah, so the two have Sunny together.
And as soon as Snake and Meryl are both looking away, Ocelot goes straight to, surprisingly, Solidus Snake, which I forgot is brought up this early. Well, I say this early, he's the villain of the next game, but it's like the fact that they were thinking that far ahead,
Yeah, I didn't expect to have like that after credits sequence.
So, if we've talked about genes, if we've talked about your past, if we've talked about how your DNA determines who you are, then everything else about a person, a human, will be talked about next time when we discuss Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty.
But before that, one last very, very, very important detail, Ransom.
You're about to say
Before-
the fucking bears.
Before we get that Solidus reveal, you get some nature video in the credits sequence.
Mhm.
And Ricky, the very first thing that credit sequence shows is a polar bear dragging its nuts through the snow. And it is wonderful. It's truly choosing life.
Genius Kojima. Okay,
But
bye.